Welcome everybody to this month's TaroWorks webinar. I'm Elaine Chang, Director of Market Development and Customer Success here at TaroWorks. And as some of you know, with our TaroWorks webinar series, we like to invite international development organizations on to share what they're working on and how they're using technology to do it. However, for this month, we thought that it was important to step back and reflect on some of the broader trends we're seeing as we continue to work with more clients and more regions with more requirements. Since we started in 2012, we've worked with over 100 programs across 47 countries, and we've seen some exciting changes with organizations and also the technology that they're using. The topic that I want to focus on today was namely how there are different flavors of the way people within organizations coordinate amongst each other and also communicate with external parties like beneficiaries, constituents, or clients. And we're super excited that we have our trusted partners, Mogli Technologies, on the line as well. They have a very similar focus on developing tools for international development organizations and helping them implement that technology. So we're excited to have Stephen and Rob on to share their insights as well. Before we get started, oops, I was supposed to advance here. So before we get started, I'm going to go over some housekeeping rules. The session today is being recorded, so any questions that you ask will be on the recording. The recording will be emailed out to everyone who registered. You can also find the full recording on the TaroWorks YouTube channel along with any of our previous recordings and webinars. And then in terms of questions, we will take some kind of clarification questions throughout. If there's an urgent thing you need asked, but otherwise we'll hold off to the end for the questions, just so we can keep to time. But again, feel free to type those questions in throughout as you have them, and I'll be moderating those. You should find a question section of the webinar platform. You can type those in there. And if you'd like to be called on to ask a question live, then please indicate that and I can unmute you at the appropriate time. So I'd like to now introduce Stephen Sivich. He's the CEO and founder of Mowgli, and Rob Blashley, the VP of Product at Mowgli. Are you guys on?
Hello, hello.
Hi there.
Hi, great. I can hear you fine. So without further ado, let's jump in. I think what we'll do is do some quick introductions for people who aren't familiar with our organizations. We will go over some of the trends that we're seeing and then share some case or use cases of organizations who are exemplifying some of these trends that we're seeing. So Stephen, I will hand it off to you.
Great, thanks Elaine. Go ahead and jump to the next slide. So welcome everybody. Thanks for your participation today and for your interest, and thanks TaroWorks and Elaine for including us in this exciting webinar and this conversation. We started our work about 2011 and have a very clear focus on really accelerating national and international impact organizations. And many of those are like the folks who are joining today who have an international development focus. That's our sweet spot. We love the individuals who are working in that space, your creativity, your determination, your tenacity, and we love to run and partner with you with the right strategies, the technologies, and resources to help you to be successful, and most importantly, somebody who gets you and gets what you're trying to do. So that's the foundation of our work, and through that we've done our services over the years since we started, but have been very carefully watching over time to see the patterns that emerge around technologies that we can replicate that allow you to do more of what you need to do and focus on your interactions with your clients, your stakeholders, your donors, your field staff. Those tools are things that we take a lot of pride in, and most importantly have this great partnership with TaroWorks because their offline mobile really complements the text messaging app that we've developed over the last few years. We're a Salesforce.org partner. We're an ISV within the Salesforce ecosystem, a 1% pledge, and we're structured as an L3C. So we're kind of a hybrid nonprofit for-profit organization, and we're really mission focused. Go ahead and jump to the next. Few of our clients, we've worked with over 200 clients around the globe, but those who are really focused on international development or working across multiple countries, multiple time zones, multiple currencies, you may know sort of the game that brings when you are trying to manage systems and data. So a few examples of organizations that are out in the field doing the work, a few that are funding that work, and just some exciting stories that we've been able to support and incredible work in touching the environment and people around the globe. And many of these clients are also clients that we have partnered with TaroWorks on in delivering their offline mobile, as well as our other services and apps. So we have two focuses to our business. One is really around this blending of strategy and technology. And this concept really comes to a place of a simple question that we often ask our clients: what does success look like? When we engage in a project, what is if we touch systems or deliver systems, what does success look like if those are in your hands and working? And then we work backwards from there, mapping the life cycles of start to finish of a process to the very specific things of a user story. Those user stories really define, as a field staff member, as a development director, as a program manager, what do you need in your day to do your job, and let's deliver that technology to make sure that you can do it well, and again, put your effort and energy towards the things that matter. As I think you all know, in this world of technology and disparate systems, being able to centralize your operations in one place is a game changer. That's why we've picked Salesforce as our main platform that we develop on, and that really provides incredible data security, reporting, and then most importantly, efficiency. It protects your institutional knowledge, and then it starts to allow you to orchestrate a lot of incredible things. And I think that's part of what we're going to share today. Being able to put together your CRM, artificial intelligence, communications, offline field data collection, and have all those things running seamlessly for the ultimate goal in many ways, which is to measure your impact. For internal sort of look in the mirror, did we do what we said we were going to do? For external reporting, for marketing, for fundraising, and for other purposes. So. This is our, you guys are the first to see this. We're making a shift right now in our going from the app model to more of a platform model. And what that means is that Mowgli is moving to a place now where Mowgli is a communications tool. And within that communications tool, you'll see a variety of things that are going to continue to evolve. Over the last 6 years or so, 7 years, it's been our text messaging app. We're really excited to show off today WhatsApp, which is a new product offering that's actually being piloted in Africa. We also have a connector to Facebook Messenger, and we are just in the final stages of developing and releasing what we're calling Mowgli Pay, which is a way for SMS payments as well as SMS donations. So an exciting moment for us in the evolution of our business, and a lot of that innovation has been driven by organizations like yours saying, hey, this is what we need, this will make our life easier, this will help us to do more of the things that we need to do in the day and the life cycle of our work. We've got a growing team. There's a few of us there. Oftentimes, if you're going to interact with our immediate team, it's the folks on the top row, from our services team to our app team. If you're looking for exciting work, let us know. We've got some great positions that are opening up here in the near future. But just wanted you to see that we're a growing team and a decent sized team, from just general support of our work to our developers and back office accounting and finance and marketing. We're really proud of some recent awards. We're starting to win a bunch of the Salesforce demo jams. Rob actually just returned yesterday from Northeast Dreamin', and where we compete against other app vendors that are on the Salesforce platform, and mostly to the genius and incredible talent of Mallory in the middle there. We're actually wrapping our demo while Rob is demoing what our systems look like. So look on Twitter or LinkedIn, a few of our socials to see if you can catch some of our videos of these demos. Are really fun.
Great, they are very impressive. Thanks for the overview, Stephen. We'll hear from him again shortly. But let me just do a quick overview of TaroWorks as well for people who are not familiar. So TaroWorks was started by the Green Foundation, who has been in the international development space for over 20 years, and they've been doing projects in agriculture and health and some of the areas that you see highlighted here. And so we really got our start with these programs that have field agents on the ground, but they're working in fairly offline areas and rural agricultural areas, or in cities that don't have very good internet connectivity. So we created this tool, TaroWorks, to help bridge that gap of, what are the agents doing on the ground as they're working with beneficiaries, and how are they coordinating with headquarters. So that is sort of the main reason TaroWorks exists, is for this coordination. So there's actually two parts to our tool. We are also a Salesforce App Exchange app. So we work with the Salesforce platform. That's where all the data is stored. It's where the forms are created, mobile users managed from there. The corresponding app is a mobile app that is on Android devices in the hands of field agents. So they can actually do their work offline and still be able to talk to the main Salesforce database. So a couple things that they can do. On the field agent side, they can see information in their local languages. You can get inputs that are standardized across all the different users, and there's also different types of inputs, so photos, signatures, GPS, so helping them get better information into the system. Once it's in Salesforce, then you can sort of use the system as normal, reporting on it. You can start to see information in map form. You can start to pull together stories, even though this information is being collected offline. And it's not just data in, we also empower agents with data. So being able to push information from the system back out so that the agents are more empowered to make decisions while they're offline. So they can be guided by offline maps. They can still access centralized records, even if they're offline. They have access to their personalized records, and they can also see training resources. And to wrap up here, we are also super excited through the organizations that we've worked with. We've touched over 4 million lives at this point. You can see some of the organizations that we've worked with. This is just a small smattering of them, but you may notice that they do cross sectors. We work with organizations in agriculture, clean energy, consumer goods, healthcare operations, and the list is there. And in several cases, we've also worked with Mogli Technologies. So we'll see some of those examples later. So that's who we are. Let's jump into some of the trends that we're seeing from working with all of these different types of organizations. Cool. So the first one is that I think when TaroWorks started, we really saw the need for just kind of mobile data collection. There's organizations that are trying to collect data and have it come back so that headquarters can run reports and report to donors or investors. Over the years, I think we've seen that this coordination amongst different roles within the organizations have increased tremendously. So it's not just one role anymore. It's not just a surveyor. There are incredibly complex organizations out there who are delivering services, providing goods, and there's just lots of different roles involved. And so these organizations are starting to look for systems that can help them with that coordination. So I think the first one here is that organizations are becoming, or I guess they're always complex, but they're now looking for technology that can match that complexity and help all the different parts of the organization coordinate with each other. I think part of that is that each role has a different need, and so standalone apps, the need for standalone apps are gone. There's more of a need for integrated apps across the platforms, so that the organization can continue talking to each other and therefore scale, which is in many cases the goal of international development organizations, to scale their impact. Strange animation, sorry about that. Also, I think related to this standalone apps being gone is that there's a need for more centralized data in one system, so that, you know, if there's a survey over here, that data is coming into a system that someone else can then access as well. You can break down those data silos, the technology silos. There's just one platform that kind of works with many, so that these different parts of the organization can coordinate and share the data. And then, at least with TaroWorks, we're seeing a lot more organizations who are doing these service deliveries and product deliveries. And so there's oftentimes standard operating procedures. So once one thing happens, then that triggers something else, another step. And so this idea of being able to track automatically when something is done, so that the other person can go off and do their piece of the puzzle is increasingly important as well. Stephen, anything to add here?
No, I think you got it.
Cool. So let's go to the trend number 2. Stephen.
Yeah, I'll speak to this. This is certainly a trend that we're responding to with our products and our apps, in recognizing the good and the bad of what's happening right now. You know, phone and email are not effective ways to connect with people anymore, and we're seeing obviously a proliferation of different communications apps. Obviously, the biggest one at the top of the list here, which covers the map pretty well here in green, is WhatsApp, and 1.5 billion users around the globe. And you'll see that there's a variety of other communications tools. Some of those are regional. WeChat, for example, which is focused on China. Skype, which I think has been sort of falling in use pretty dramatically, but there's others like Viber, Line, and Telegram that are very similar to Facebook Messenger that are starting to rise as well. But the point of this slide is to recognize that for you to stay relevant on a fundraising level, for you to engage certain stakeholders, more importantly, to be able to engage your base of people that you're potentially serving, the place to meet them is where they like to communicate. And obviously that trend has really been moving internationally towards WhatsApp. I think in the United States, we haven't quite caught on to that. We're still in the high usage of text messaging, but I would imagine in the next 3 to 4 years, we're gonna start moving more and more to WhatsApp. So again, the point of this slide is to show that there are some pretty big trends moving around the world, and the concept of meet your contacts, your stakeholders, the individuals you need to communicate with, on the tools where they prefer to meet. And I think what you'll find is increased engagement, potentially an increase in donation, more importantly, a really good feedback loop with those organizations, individuals, or stakeholders that are benefiting from your services and work. That's all I have to say on that one, Elaine.
Great. Cool. Okay, and then the third trend that we're seeing is that the tools that are, or I guess even though organizations are getting more complex and needing kind of one central place for data, the different tools that are available are becoming more specialized. So the question, I guess this part is a little bit more of a conversation, but you know, do you try to build a system that does everything, or do you find these tools that are very specialized and put them together? So this is kind of where, you know, the importance of platforms like Salesforce come into play. They have a very robust app exchange market where you can sort of build the tool that fits your needs, and each of these app providers does have very specific specialization in what they're doing. So for example, TaroWorks is really focused on the types of coordination that field agents require. Mowgli is all about kind of communications through either SMS or now WhatsApp. So how, instead of like finding one organization that builds it all, can you sort of integrate various apps? So we are seeing that.
I'll jump in here real quick, Elaine, too. And one of the things that we're seeing is, you know, in the last sort of 12 years or so, there's been a proliferation of awesome standalone apps, and they're really beautiful. They're really easy to turn on. They're really easy to use. And organizations are finding themselves scattered across multiple systems and no way of those things talking together. And then the burden of communicating and connecting that data becomes really high. So I think there's always a place, like, you know, you do need a standalone accounting app sometimes because it just needs to do what the accountants need to do. But at some point when it makes sense, can you integrate that into your operations and have something happening in another system, your fundraising app, connect up and drive donations and records of funds coming into your organization right into your accounting system. We're finding more and more the sort of relief and the joy of having data centralized in one system is a huge benefit to organizations, and especially when what we call in the Salesforce ecosystem as a native app, an app that's truly designed for the platform that it sits on. That really makes a difference, and you'll notice the difference between a standalone text messaging app versus one that's embedded completely inside of Salesforce. There is a complete different user experience with that and benefit to the organization.
Yep, great. Okay, so in terms of kind of specialization, there's specialization toward the roles, but there's also tools matched to sector need. So this is where you can find organization or tools that are specific to these international development organizations or agriculture. I think with international development, at least what we've seen, you know, a lot of the organizations that TaroWorks talks to, they need something like Salesforce for a CRM. However, they're working in these very rural areas that cannot connect over the internet. And so there's, you know, kind of sectoral needs where apps are specializing as well.
I think microfinance organizations are a good example of this too, where there's very specific microfinance type tools. And sometimes it's a dance between, you know, do you have a standalone microfinance tool and an integrated CRM? And I think sometimes it really just depends on the stage and age of your organization, as well as the investment you're willing to make into really seamless systems or systems that serve exactly what you need for that type of microfinance, but maybe aren't integrated. I think if you're in microfinance, you probably know that delicate dance around, you know, getting the right systems in place and also watching your budget.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that last point about the budget leads to this third point. Is there one ring to rule them all? So the reference here is Lord of the Rings. But the idea is there kind of one system that can do everything? You know, I think there's always that tension between, do you custom build a tool using one provider, or do you integrate these apps, or bring different apps together? I think, you know, there's different options. I certainly think that, you know, it might seem like a sort of custom build can be very, well, obviously customized, but there is a lot of kind of cost involved with that, and the time it takes to kind of build it out, to maintain it. And so, yeah, I don't think there's, I think in addition to that, you should also be considering, what existing apps are out there that you can piece together.
I think the last piece I'll just add to this one, Elaine, is that I think, again, in this trend towards integrating systems in one place, you may have also heard of sort of the proliferation of API connectors and the ability to connect up systems. So there are ways to have standalones that do connect up, but know that there can be quite a bit of maintenance and work to kind of maintain those connections, especially if they are transactional around finance and money. You don't ever want those to go down, so you want to be very careful with those. What we have seen in the 8 years that we've been in business, we started out agnostic to platform, but very quickly went completely to Salesforce and are a part of the Lord of the Rings, if you will. We believe that having one platform that can do all sorts of things really does set the stage for the ultimate goal, and as I mentioned earlier, which is around gathering that data up to do quick and easy impact measurement for reporting to board of directors, to internal marketing teams. Those things can be really powerful and efficient when you're running with tight, small teams that are being overextended and limited resources. Having that extra investment into one platform can actually pay off in efficiency and sort of peace of mind for your staff. So unfortunately, I think I wear one of those rings and believe that that is really the trend towards this kind of work, where you have organizations that are dealing in really diverse operations that need to be systematized. What would it look like if they are sort of centralized in one system? And again, it isn't always an easy process either way, whether you're standalone or integrated. But if you do make the investment and set things up right at the beginning, the multiple of benefit and efficiency can come later on.
Great. Cool. I'm going to keep going, but yeah, if you have any questions, do type them in and we'll make sure to get to them at the end. So at this point, we would like to kind of shift gears a little bit and share some of the stories of the clients that we've worked with who kind of exemplify some of these trends. So let me go into the first one, Stephen.
Great. So Protecto Mirador is an organization that we've worked with since the beginning of our company in 2011. And as you can see here, they build these beautiful clean cook stoves, efficient cook stoves, and they're focused on Central America. Their main base of operations has been in Honduras. They're now expanding out into Nicaragua and El Salvador and Guatemala. Go ahead and jump to the next slide. And we started working with them and actually moved them from a paper-based system into Salesforce. And this has been a really extraordinary opportunity to work with a partner who's willing to take risk, who's growing at an incredible rate, and is willing to invest in technology. And they have a really beautiful blended system of Salesforce with, as you can see there, Mowgli SMS, TaroWorks, and a variety of other apps that you can pull off of the Salesforce App Exchange. And all these things are orchestrated in amazing ways. And part of what I want to show today is how we kind of tied together these systems and artificial intelligence. But just in terms of scale, when we started working with them, they had about 35,000 clean cook stoves. They're now, I think probably over close to 190,000 households or stoves, and getting close to 1 million beneficiaries that are impacted, and at least 7 million trees saved. But more importantly, as you probably know with clean cook stoves, the whole host of benefits that come from a clean cook stove, from health to savings to just better lives. So they've been a great partner since we started working with them, and we're really excited to share this little bit of technology that we orchestrated for them. So a few years ago, we started to recognize that out in the field, they've got about 70 technicians who are building about 4 cook stoves a day. And many of those technicians are new employees and trying to figure things out. And if you literally put the chimney in on one of those stoves below the roof line or too close to tree branches, the airflow doesn't work well, and the smoke will actually blow back down in the house, and the stove won't heat up well, and it doesn't work well, and people will literally rip them out within a few days of them being put into their homes. So it made sense to actually go to the level of what would it look like if we could improve the efficiency and the quality control of these about 3,000 cook stoves that are installed a month, and integrate Einstein Vision from Salesforce, TaroWorks, offline mobile, and Mogli SMS to orchestrate a whole bunch of automations. Let's go ahead and jump to the next slide. So basically what happens here is that a technician will take a photo, submit that with TaroWorks, and then behind the scenes, that data, when it's pushed up to Salesforce, will then get processed by Einstein, and basically goes through an algorithm that says, hey, is this a good chimney or a bad chimney? And then at that point, if it's a good chimney, it'll shoot a text message out to that staff member and say, hey, good job, chimney looks good, go on to the next household. And if it doesn't, then it gives them a chance to sort of think through what are they doing wrong, and maybe adjust or fix the chimney, and then go ahead and submit another set of images, and then either kind of get an approval to go on to the next house, or potentially notify a supervisor that there's a challenge and that they should swing by and help them. Another reason why this matters is that in Honduras, if you go into a village on the wrong day at the wrong time, it's not that you just showed up and annoyed people. Literally, people's lives are at stake because of how dangerous it is in Honduras. So we want to make sure that those technicians get it done right the first day and the first time, and can move on to another village and keep doing their work and hit their mark of 4 stoves a day, and earn the money that they need to earn, and also make sure that those stoves are producing the benefits and reducing carbon that they're expected to. So here's a little deeper glimpse into what we call Einstein Playground, which is one of the learning tools that literally you can do from a drag and drop perspective. We ended up going to a little bit of code for Protecto Mirador because of some complexity and because of the volumes. There are some limits you need to be aware of inside of Salesforce. But you can see here is an example of 2 images that were sent into Einstein from TaroWorks. And the one chimney there is nice and clean and high, and Einstein will say, hey, let me look at my existing bank of good chimneys. Hey, this fits. Good chimney, send out the text message, go to the next household. Versus the one on the right, where you can see some branches around it, potentially the stove chimneys below the roof line. The airflow on that's not going to go well. We evolved this system from its first version early on to being able to take 3 photos from 3 different angles, so that you can get a couple different perspectives, and then take a sort of an average. And if it hits a certain threshold, then it says, hey, good chimney, move on to the next, or no bueno, bad chimney, go to the next, or do the repair. So that's just a quick little glimpse into some orchestration of how artificial intelligence, text messaging can really benefit an organization that's operating at scale internationally. I want to transition over to passing this to Rob now to talk about Africa Leadership University, one of our newest clients, who's actually our pilot using our Mogli platform with WhatsApp. And this will actually be a live demo. So as soon as you're ready there, Rob, take it away.
I am ready. Yeah, Elaine, if you can go to the next slide, that'd be great. Thank you. So yeah, so as Stephen said, ALU is one of our newer clients this year. I think we started working with them in the March timeframe, and they gave us some information about their university, which is a startup university in Africa. They have locations in Mauritius and Rwanda today, but their goal is to develop 3 million ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa and the world by 2035. So they have a very ambitious goal and an exciting goal. Their goal is not just to have those locations in Mauritius and Rwanda, but they want students from all over Africa. And to do that, they told us that they needed really effective communication with those students and prospective students throughout Africa, and hopefully for them also throughout the world, bringing in students to Africa. One of the exciting things about them is that they are #1 in Africa on Fast Company's top 50 most innovative companies in 2019. So another really proud part of our organization is working with them and trying to support them in their mission. SMS is a great tool, and it's a great tool in Africa. However, it can be pretty expensive. And we knew that. It can also be difficult to find phone numbers in every single one of these African countries where they want to reach their students and prospective students. And so they told us that the golden egg is WhatsApp. And so we started working together, and how can we develop a connection directly from Salesforce to WhatsApp and to people around the world. And so that's what we've done with African Leadership University. The goal is to meet them where they're at, to use a means of communication that they're familiar with. As Stephen mentioned, there's 1.5 billion users around the world of WhatsApp, and just some quick research shows that every one of those users that are active on a daily basis are actually looking at WhatsApp 23 times a day. So it's a really important tool for them and their communication needs. It's also very easy to scale. So right now with SMS, again, it's a great tool, but you need to get local phone numbers in each of those countries. And that means that it takes a lot more upfront effort to purchase and to assign and to obtain those numbers in each country. But with WhatsApp, we've now got this ubiquitous channel that can allow us to send out mass communication to many countries and people wherever they are around the world. So I'm going to jump into a quick demo here and show you what Mogli looks like. Okay, can you see my screen okay?
I can see it.
All right, great. So this is what Mogli SMS looks like inside of Salesforce. You can see that we can do one-on-one communications. That's what you see over here in this conversation view. Ours is color-coded, and the reason that it's color-coded is we like to allow each user of Salesforce and of Mogli to be able to display their own color, their own bubble color and text color. And so what that allows us to do now is get a really good temperature of the student or whoever it is that we're talking to, because we can now see all of the different conversations that are taking place as I scroll up here. So I'm going to show SMS first. This is Google Hangouts over here on my right. I'm just going to send a local message here and say hi there and send that out. And you'll see over here in Google Hangouts that I'm going to receive that message. When a message comes back and we say hi back, I'm going to be notified of that message coming in, and that's going to be an audible chime, as well as this Mogli notifications down here starting to blink. So that tells me that a new message has come in from someone that's interesting to me. So they texted in on my phone number, my WhatsApp phone number, and when I click on that, I can see all the different messages that have come in. So that's SMS, and again, we can do a phone number anywhere in the world. Not only can we get virtual phone numbers or phone numbers that don't necessarily have a direct phone connected to them, but we can also connect directly to an Android phone in each country. We call that an Android gateway. So now we can connect to an Android phone. We can use that phone to actually send and receive the message, which is a cost-effective way to send communications, because you're working on a cost structure that is messaging credits in country, which are generally relatively inexpensive. But more importantly to this demo is WhatsApp. So what does this look like? So this is a different contact. Let's pretend that Michael Simmons is a contact in Africa for African Leadership University purposes. WhatsApp does have a few restrictions and guidelines as to how you can communicate with someone who you haven't been communicating with, how you can reach out to that person. And what they require is that you create templates ahead of time. So I'm going to select WhatsApp as the message that I want to send out here. And you can see that Mogli is saying you're outside of the 24-hour WhatsApp window. And what that means is I haven't received a message from this particular student within the last 24 hours. So instead of just sending out a customized message, I'm required to use a template. So we can create lots of templates ahead of time, but those templates might be something like your appointment is coming up, or are you interested in learning more about African Leadership University, or I'd like to have a conversation with you. Please reply to this so that we can connect. When I send that message out here, you're going to see that it populates here in Mogli. And also over here in WhatsApp, I know that that's probably pretty tiny on your screen, but you can see that I received that message. And now when I send a message back, so again, just a hi back, that message comes in, it's going to automatically show up in this conversation view. And now that I've had a conversation, I've had a back and forth with this person, I can now have that full customization. I can text back and forth and say, hi, how are you, and not use a template. So as long as that 24-hour window has been opened up where we have an incoming message, now we can have that back and forth conversation. Now, one of the things that we're really excited about with Mogli, though, and what African Leadership University is really excited about, is the ability to do automated surveys. And so these surveys go a long way. So I'm just going to text in the word student here. And I immediately get this response through WhatsApp. And this is automatic. These are easy to build inside of Mogli. Thanks for contacting Mogli U. Are you ready to start your freshman survey? Reply yes or no. I'm going to say yup, because we know that people don't always follow directions. By saying yup, Mogli analyzes that response and says, what does yup mean? Well, it means yes. So let's take them down the yes path. Great. How many credit hours did you take? Say I took 20, and here in the US, 20 is a lot of credit hours, especially for a freshman. So Mogli analyzes that response. Wow, that's a heavy course load. What was your GPA? Say I got a 2.3, I struggled a little bit. Maybe I took a few too many classes. And Mogli says, must have been a tough semester. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your freshman year? I'm gonna say it's a 1. I had a really rough freshman year at Mogli University. And now it says, I'm sorry, your experience wasn't up to our standards. So it's very quick, it's easy, it's automated. All of these messages have been created ahead of time. The logic has been created ahead of time. Very easy to build. But more importantly is, what do we do with this information inside of Salesforce? Inside of Salesforce, we put this in what we call a question response record. And this is the most important piece here, is that this allows us to have context around all of the incoming and outgoing messages. So here we've got, on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your freshman year? This person initially responded with 10. So we took them down this path that says, please choose a number between 1 and 5. They then said 1. Now we can run automations off of this. We can communicate with people and send a message out to their advisor and say, Rob's at risk for not coming back to school next year. And we can also do things like dashboard all of the individual questions and responses. So I think my time is up, but thanks for letting me run through some of the things that Mogli does that we're really excited about, and how African Leadership University intends to use Mogli and WhatsApp.
Great, thanks, Rob. I did have a question, if you could just clarify quickly. The question is, can users with Salesforce's mobile app receive the same notifications?
Yes, absolutely. So we can set that up in a different way. So the notification won't look like this, because this is a Lightning component, which isn't specifically available in the Salesforce mobile app just yet. But what we can do is send chatter notifications, we can send text messages, we can send emails. We've got lots of different ways to notify those users who are not necessarily sitting directly in front of their laptops at the time.
Great, thanks. Yeah, if you have other clarification questions, please type them in. We'll get to those. I think that's it for now. So let me just take this back. Great. Okay, so the last case study that we wanted to share with you is of an organization, SustainaBio. So SustainaBio is a social enterprise that creates value from waste with their biodigester systems. And you can see an example of those here. The farmers throughout rural Mexico, Latin America, East Africa, and India are using these biodigesters to turn farm waste into organic fertilizer and to replace wood and LP gas with a natural energy source coming from the waste. So this saves the farmers money and is better for the environment. You can sort of see from the photos also that the biodigesters are fairly large, which requires installation and kind of management of different parts or inventory. So let me get into kind of how they're using this across the organization. So I think the key to their success is that they have this overall process. It is a standard operating procedure with many different roles involved, so that the farmers are properly identified, the sites are properly diagnosed, and the systems can be properly maintained over time, since they can last for up to 20 years. So they were looking for a tool that can help them with promotion. So a sales agent introduces the product to a group and talks about the benefits so that the farmers can decide whether a biodigester is right for them. Then the next step is that they go into diagnostics. So an agent logs the farm diagnostics. They go on site and determine if the system is a good fit with kind of the landscape and the animals. And this sort of logs a result to indicate whether the agent should proceed with this lead. The other thing with the biodigesters is that not many of these farmers can sort of pay for it up front. And so there is financing that SustainaBio provides. And so a part of the diagnostics process is to create a credit score using TaroWorks to confirm whether the organization or the farmer can get a Kiva loan. In terms of, there's also manufacturing, so actually starting to put the biodigesters together for a farmer. Someone else is installing that finished product onto the farm. And then once it's installed, there's also kind of ongoing monitoring. They have a mandatory follow-up visits. They have mandatory follow-up visits at the 30, 60, and 180-day marks after the installations to make sure that the biodigester is working and to monitor the impact. So these are all different kind of processes that are in place for onboarding, and you'll see sort of how SustainaBio mapped out, like, what are they tracking, who's doing what, and it kind of jumps back and forth. So they actually needed a pretty robust system to track, who's doing what, and once something is done, what is the next step? Okay, the other thing that they're using TaroWorks for is sort of coordinating inventory movements. So as you can see, the biodigesters have a lot of parts, and with all the different geographical areas that they're working in, sort of Latin America, East Africa, India, there's a lot of different operations that they need to keep track of with like literal moving parts. So again, they're operating in some of these very offline areas. So how can you get that level of visibility into stock levels in different places? So using TaroWorks and Salesforce, they're able to track the stock levels at warehouses as different things happen. So as they are sourcing items from their suppliers, their stock levels change. As inventory goes, gets damaged, or they find a box somewhere, they can log those inventory adjustments even when they're offline. They can do blind audits or cycle counts, so just logging what they see on the warehouse shelves. And then they have, they can also track stock levels based on distribution. So maybe someone sells a stove like you see here, that should automatically update those stock levels. So this just gives management a level of understanding of where their assets are, and they can plan that demand. So if something is starting to get low, they can make sure that it's getting replenished so that the users don't have any interruption in their service. And they, SustainaBio is also using SMS. So just make sure Stephen is here. Stephen, you want to talk about their SMS use?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah, I think again, in sort of the light of what we're sharing today around integration of systems and recognizing that, especially for their clients in different countries, part of the way Mogli SMS is orchestrated is around just confirmation of payment receipts, reminders that payments are coming up. Typically, they send them about 3 days before the due date. And then if there are any late payments that those customers are notified via text. It is the way for those individuals to be met across large geographies and in remote areas where there is at least a decent cell connection. So that's kind of the main use case for SMS with Sistema.
Great. And that actually concludes the use cases. So let me just turn it over for Q&A. If you have any questions, do type them into the Q&A section of the GoToWebinar platform. Should be just like a drop down. I should be able to type it in, or you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. I guess question while we're waiting for questions to trickle in. Stephen or Rob, have you seen any sort of like for the new WhatsApp usage? Are there any countries that are sort of off limits, or where are you seeing more demand? If this sort of
Africa and Latin America are really exciting when it comes to WhatsApp, and a lot of the clients that we're seeing so far that have interest are coming from those two areas. US, when we have a lot of educational institutions, for example, who are recruiting internationally, they're also very interested in WhatsApp.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
Hey, Rob, could you explain a little bit about one of the other sort of registration sort of concepts with WhatsApp? It's got its own sort of rules and processes to get approval.
Yeah, so because the WhatsApp, they call this the business API, whether you're a nonprofit or not, it's still the business API for reaching out and connecting with these constituents. And the business API is very new. It already has, I believe, something like 3 million users, but it's still a new product, and they're kind of rolling it out a little bit slowly. So you do require an approval process, and that approval process is generally pretty quick. And we haven't seen a kind of a rhyme or reason for who they're actually approving and who they're not. So in some cases, it can be a very large university or growing university like ALU. And in other cases, we've seen very large organizations that have not gotten approval. So we're still learning the finer points of it as well.
We have a question, another question about WhatsApp. So I think in the demo we saw that you could have a kind of generic number for the organization sending messages. The question is, can you have different numbers assigned to different users so that customer care can answer more efficiently?
Absolutely. Yep. So you can have many different phone numbers that are connected to WhatsApp and that are connected also to your account, so that any payments for those messages, et cetera, are still coming through the same payment process. It's one approval for the entire account. So you could have many phone numbers, and you can assign those phone numbers to individuals. So in that drop down that I showed you, they'll only see the phone numbers that they're assigned to.
That's great. Cool. Great, I don't see any other questions. So with that, I think we might end just a little bit before time. Do follow up. You can see our contact information here if any questions come to you later. But at this point, I'd like to thank Stephen and Rob for their time. Thanks for your insights and for sharing that demo. That's super cool, and for sharing your stories. So yeah, thanks so much. And thanks to the audience for joining.
Thank you. A lot of fun. Really appreciate it, Elaine.
Thanks all. See you next time.